Hi, everyone. Welcome. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is David Trelevin. You're, um, you're welcome. I see Jewel. I see you on your screen, which is great. You're welcome to be on video if you want. If you also just want to kind of chill and not be on video, that's fine too. But welcome to this Q&A call. Really happy that you're here. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm a writer, I'm an author, and I wrote a book that came out last year called Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness. And I'm really working in this field around the intersection of mindfulness, meditation, and trauma. And this is the inaugural online course that we are launching in 6 days from now, which is really exciting. And so we wanted to take a moment to actually have this call with all of you and just open it up to the community here. This is really, it's really all about you all. This is a question answer call designed to just hear what questions you're in, how we can support you to make a decision if the course is right for you. Just a little context, so the course is launching October 1st, next Tuesday, and we've had close to 400 people register for the course, which is humbling, in part because it feels like, I both wanted the course to go well, and it's humbling that this many of us are needing to have this conversation about trauma. And I'm in a moment of just feeling like this is the conversation I've been waiting to have with the community around how we can do well by people who are struggling with trauma. And so we're here on this call tonight because we're really close to launching the course. We would love to have you there if it feels right for all of you. And we just want to take a moment to answer your questions. We've had a lot of great questions over the last couple weeks since we announced the course being launched. And we've compiled them. And so our plan here is to have kind of a back and forth with you all, where we'll talk about some of the most kind of popular questions that have been answered. And then we're also going to be opening it up to all of you about what questions that you're in and how we can support you. So I want to take a moment here. I have a partner here, which I'm thrilled at, because usually I'm on Zoom and I'm just kind of hoping that it goes well. But my colleague Tyler is here. Tyler Grillo is the program manager inside of the Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness team. It's a small team that we have. And Tyler and I have been working super hard this recent stretch. And he agreed to be on the call tonight. He's also been one of the people who's been probably answering some of your questions that you might have been sending in. So Tyler, you open to jumping in here, and he's going to be describing about also how you can interact here on the call.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be on with you all and be assisting David here and on this call, but also just more generally in this work in the course. So as David mentioned, he'll be saying a few of the popular questions and answering them. And then if you want to go ahead and in the chat feature, which if you go down with your mouse towards the bottom of your Zoom screen, there'll be a little button that says chat. And you can in there select who you're going to chat to. And so if you chat your questions directly to me, and also if you would put your email address in there, and then I'll compile those and have David answer them later. And then also if we don't get to any questions, that's why I'm asking you to put your email in there. If you don't mind, if we don't get to any questions, we'll make sure to answer them by email. All right, well, turn it back over to you, David.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Thanks for being here. So I want to say 3 minutes of context about the course, if any of you are new to it. The course is titled Trauma Sensitive Mindfulness, the Practitioner's Guide to Recognizing Trauma, Responding Skillfully, and Preventing Retraumatization. And Tyler is going to put an insert. If you want to have a look, this is the course registration page we're going to put into the chat box, which really has all the information about the course. I feel pretty proud of the page. It like breaks down all the different aspects of the course, all the different modules, what you'd be getting, etc. So you're welcome to check that out at any point. But basically the idea with the course is to equip you with all the knowledge and tools that you would need to be able to practice trauma-sensitive mindfulness. And that could be whatever environment you are offering mindfulness programs, practices, or interventions. So for example, you might be someone who's a mindfulness educator. You might be in classrooms offering mindfulness to students. You might be in a meditation or a yoga class. You might be a teacher in one of the main programs like mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, um, uh, some kind of self-compassion work. Also, you might be doing one-to-one work as a coach and a therapist. Really, the course is a general introductory course that's designed for anyone who's asking people to pay close and sustained attention to their present moment experience. That's really what we're going to be getting into on the course. And I want to just say for a minute, like, why now? Why the course? And for me, it has to do with the fact that, as you know, mindfulness exploding in popularity, so many people accessing mindfulness teachings from any number of avenues. And then at the same time, research telling us prevalence rates of trauma remain high. And so to me, when pulling back from this picture, anywhere that we are offering mindfulness practices, there's a good chance that someone in the room will be struggling with trauma. And the open question I have with the community is, do you feel prepared for that? And that in no way is to fearmonger and say, like, if you're not prepared, be scared or anything like that. But I think there's a certain responsibility that we all have as offering powerful mindfulness practices to know how we would respond if someone approached us and said, hey, I'm having flashbacks, or I'm feeling really spun out and dysregulated. So my goal with the course is to really leave you feeling empowered, confident, powerful in your own teaching, and with a more complex toolkit inside of what you're offering. As I'll talk about more in the course. If people are experiencing a flashback or they're being triggered in mindfulness meditation, I don't necessarily hold that as a bad thing, or that we necessarily need to walk on eggshells as mindfulness providers. But I am committed that people who are offering these powerful practices are equipped to know what to do. And that could be you as an individual, or that could be you as an organization. Like, how can you be more trauma sensitive or trauma informed? So when I designed the course, to say one more thing, this course, I thought of like, okay, as an introductory course, what would be the most essential things I think that you would all need to know to practice in a way that was safe, that would allow someone who's struggling with trauma to be under your guidance and care and to be safe in your instruction. So that's really what I'm up to. And I'll just say personally that I've been waiting for this course for a long time, because the book was, I'm in the apartment where I wrote the book, and I mean, it was great, and it was kind of lonely at times to just be tapping away. And I've been waiting for the moment to actually get to be interacting and interfacing with a community around this topic. And so we designed the course that way. I just feel thrilled to finally be having a live conversation, which is partly why I wanted to do this call, was just open it up to all of you. So let me start with two of the questions that we've gotten, which have been very common. One question is, can I take this course if I can't make it to the live sessions? And the answer to that question is emphatically yes. There's a number of people that have said, hey, you know what, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific won't work for my schedule, and I really want to start my learning inside of trauma-sensitive mindfulness. Can I access this? So we're going to be videotaping all of the sessions, which you will have access to indefinitely. Our commitment inside of this is that we'll have the videos up by 4 p.m. Eastern, the same day that we record. There'll be 5 different modules. I'll say more about this in a moment. 5 modules of the course. And each of those modules has 2 sessions. One is a didactic session where I'm really in the content. And then we'll have a live session on Tuesdays that gets into a lot of question and answer and community engagement. So we'll have all those videos uploaded by 4 p.m. And there's a number of people who are going to be doing this because they want to be actually following the course as they go. And this is great. I see some of you, if you're asking questions, this is great. If you can direct them to Tyler, that would be awesome. And then we'll keep coming back to all of you. Second question, and then we'll open it up here for a question with all of you. A number of people are asking about whether we'll offer the course again. Different versions of like, hey, I really want to take this, and this is coming at a time where it's really not lining up with my schedule, and can I take it at a future date? And the answer to that is probably, and most likely yes. Like, I mean, I love this work. I want to be in this work. And absolutely, we'd love to have you there, whether it's in the future or whether it's this course. The one caveat that I'll say about the future is we don't know necessarily the format by which we'll be offering the course if we do it next year. Like this year, we were very particular about wanting to do live sessions where we'd have the chance to be doing a lot of engagement with all of you. We just don't know what it's going to be looking like next year. And our plan is definitely to be offering it. So absolutely, we'd love to have you now. And if you are interested in the future, we'd also love to have you. Tyler, I'm going to pause there and see if you have any questions you want to jump in on. And I have a couple in my thread too.
Yeah, great. Actually, Jewel, would you like to jump on if you're able to ask your question about the difference between the book and the course?
Hi there.
Hi, Jewel. Did you have a
Yeah,
question?
I was wondering, I have read the book, so is it different from the course?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I'm using the book as a launching place to have the course. And I'd say the main difference is I'm thinking of it as an enhanced roll through the book, especially around practices. So a lot of the modifications, a lot of the core principles that we'll be covering, if you read the book, you will have seen like some of the 5 main modules that we'll be holding, they overlap with the principles of trauma-sensitive mindfulness. And then honestly, I've learned so much since actually writing the book. The book came out like a year and a half now. And so what I've done the last year and a half is I've been doing a lot of teaching and travel, and I've learned a ton along the way because people would, I mean, sometimes they'd be like, that's great. And other times they'd just straight out disagree and they'd say, hey, well, what about this? So why I'm excited, yes, the course is based on the book, and where I feel excited about it, and again, you can decide if this works for you, is I'll be offering some different modifications from the book. And also we'll be doing live practices with people, which is what I'm also really excited about, like that live dynamic kind of Q&A. And then also in the didactic content, I'll be doing guided practices. And it will be, just to be real, there's a lot of the aspects of the book that I'll be covering inside the course because it really is like an introductory course. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Tyler, is there any others you want to jump in on, or do you want me to go back to?
Hi, this is Kim in Seattle. I'm sorry, I've got some technical difficulties, so I can't text you.
Oh, you got it.
I'm
Jump
on the
in.
phone.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like it would be worthwhile to take this course, even having done the one a year and a half ago, because there's added information and added practices. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how I'm holding it. I hold it as like I'm going to be offering modifications and practices that to me feel updated. I had 60, I think there's 64 in the book. And I've definitely over the last year gotten another 15 from people that are like, try this and hear that. And there will be people that will be coming on the course that haven't read the book. So I'm going to be threading the needle of making sure that it's introductory, that I go through the primary principles. And then for those of you that have read the book, I also want to make it valuable enough that you say, oh, that was really worth it. I actually learned more than I got out of the book. So I hold that as my responsibility to be giving you more than just like an audio version of the book. I won't just be like reading the book. And just to be real, there'll be aspects of the book that I'll be definitely basing the course off of. But yes, there'll be new modifications.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Let me come back for a moment, and then you're welcome. Please keep writing your questions in. So there's another question that came in often around people who are working one-to-one with clients. People were saying, can I apply what I'm learning here directly with clients? Which I appreciate this question, and it gives me the chance to give you some kind of guardrails of what you can expect around the course. So it's definitely not a course to train you in being a trauma professional. That's not that core, like versus somatic experiencing or other approaches, psychotherapeutic approaches to trauma. And I meet a lot of one-to-one providers, could be social workers, coaches, therapists, people who say, hey, I'm offering basic like mindfulness practices to my clients. I'd like to do, and trauma's coming up in my work, I'd like to be able to do so in a way that would help them access the practices if they're struggling with trauma. So my answer to this question is yes, you can apply the teachings. The modifications to me have real applicability inside of one-to-one work. And I just want to be clear from the start, I'm not holding this as a trauma training where you're doing trauma-focused work with individuals. This is much more of an introductory framework that, you know, I've had a number of people say it's been super helpful for them in their one-to-one work. And I just wanted to be clear about those distinctions. Tyler, can we come back to any questions that have come to you?
Yeah, there's another one and a couple that were kind of in the same vein. So I'll just kind of, which was, you know, folks saying that they're new to you and your work. And if there's anywhere online they could find you leading meditations, or, you know, I thought of the podcast was a good place. Anything else?
Yeah, that's great. Well, one place, if you're new to me and you didn't see the webinar, would probably be a good place for you to get a sense of me as a teacher. So that's the first place. Tyler, would you be able to link the webinar in here? So we'll give you a link that was a free webinar that we did. And again, if you want to get a sense of my teaching style, how I lead practices, things like that, I would definitely encourage you to check out this webinar. If you go online, you'll also, if you Google me, you'll find a couple different podcasts where I was a guest on. And Tyler, your point about the podcast would also be a good one, I think, to help people, you know, again, just get a sense of me and my instruction. My computer is 100 degrees right now. So
yeah, maybe go in over the phone for the,
okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm back. So you were asking, I think, where were we, Tyler? I'm sorry.
We were just discussing how else folks could get a sense of your work. So sending that, just put the chat to where you can get the webinar, and then I'll put the podcast.
Yeah, I would totally encourage people to, if you're interested in my work, all those different options that Tyler just shared, you know, please check me out. I think the webinar would be a good one though, because you'll see me kind of unfold a practice that will be very similar to how I teach and how I engage with people. And you can also see me on podcast too. So Tyler, would you, any other questions? I won't have access as much to my chat here in the, on my phone.
Yeah, folks, just keep chatting, chatting to me. Another great question that came in, Catherine, I don't know if you're on here and able to come on and ask your question. But asked a great question around, will the course address the challenges teachers may face if they have experienced their own traumas?
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a great question. So one of the things I've definitely learned from this work is, you know, trauma is not just an intellectual topic. This is something that is personal to us all. Our own traumas will be present in the room around our teaching, and that for those of us who are working as providers or, you know, mindfulness teachers or educators, our own trauma work is important to address. So I handle that two ways. One is to acknowledge that we need to be doing our own work to be self-regulating. I'll be offering practices in the course to support what's known as our window of tolerance. And it won't be an active trauma healing course in that way. To me, it's this balance of both honoring and acknowledging the trauma that we've experienced and that we might need to be working with when we're in this field of trauma sensitive practice. And we won't be taking deep dives into our actual individual trauma work. I would hold that as a more advanced course. And I would want to be offering you all practices to support that. So that's a little bit around that that balance. But to me, that's a very real conversation that I would want to have in a community engagement session about, okay, how do we handle things when our trauma is coming up inside of a course or a class? And what are the practices that we can actually work with inside of that? So thanks for the question. It's a really great one.
Ready for another one?
Anytime.
Keep
Yeah,
them coming.
we are live now. Yeah, we can roll.
Okay, great. Well, some of this I think you're going to get to towards the end, but we've just had a couple questions, so maybe you can answer it now. I was just explaining the length of the course and also the cost.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'll start with the length of the course. So we start October 1st and we go until basically the middle of November. It is a 5-module course with an introduction and a finale session. And we're also going to be offering a bonus module. Those sessions, if you go, I'll talk about it a little bit here, but if you go to the link, Tyler, if you might even put that back in the registration link. If you go 2/3 of the way down the page of the registration page, you'll actually see an entire list of all the different sessions. It really maps it out. And then if you keep scrolling, it goes session by session into actually the topic. So basically next Tuesday, we have an orientation. Thursday, we get right in around talking about how we recognize trauma, how we'll define it, what's trauma-sensitive practice. And then I'll roll through all the different principles of trauma-sensitive mindfulness, like how do we work with the body? How do we work with attention? What about social context? All these different pieces. So that's the length of the course. And in each module, there will be 2 sessions. There will be a didactic component where I'm talking for an hour, basically giving you a lot of instruction. And then we'll have a community engagement session 5 days later. We want to give you the chance, if you're watching by video, to watch over the weekend. We'll have a community engagement session and we'll really dive into the questions and answers. The cost of the course is $297 for the 5 modules, and then the 2 different, the introduction and the finale session. One more thing I'll mention is we're going to be having optional breakout meeting rooms. So if you want to spend some time after the course engagement session, actually meeting some people in the community, continuing the conversation, we're going to have breakout rooms on those calls so that people can actually build community.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Let's go ahead and make sure we get to all those questions, some of the common ones that you had on your list.
Yeah, the main one that I had left here is, let me pull it up here. Tyler, there was one more question and my computer's frozen and overheated in this moment. So I think the best thing to do right now is let's just open it up to live here with folks. Like, you can jump in if you have questions. If there's the ones that we didn't address in the chat, you're welcome to do that here with me and with Tyler as well.
One just did come in here. Someone asking about kind of the range of folks if they're working with, who this is applicable to. So for example, teaching mindfulness to K through 12 children, for example, right? Or clinicians or things like that.
That's great. So definitely one of the more engaged groups I've been around are mindful educators, and who are talking about, well, let's talk about the differences between, say, we're working in grade school, or we're working in a high school, or we're doing clinical work. So there's definite differences. And at this level of the course, we won't be getting into specific detail around, for example, the differences between complex trauma and acute trauma. That level, what we'll be working with really is fundamentally around dysregulation and traumatic symptoms that come from overwhelm. I'm holding the conversations around working with particular populations, doing trauma-focused work. I'm holding that right now as more advanced training that we would do down the road. And from the feedback I've gotten the last couple of years of doing this work, people tend to say, this has been really applicable for X, Y, and Z population that I'm working with. So we're really working with general principles that can be applied to your work. And then inside of that, of course, we'll be asking questions and getting into specifics with people on the course engagement sessions about, okay, how would I work with a teen here? So there is room to get specific, and I just want to be clear that won't be baked into the content that we'll be offering on the Thursdays. I'll just jump in here and say as well, for those of you that are interested, if you want to go to the course registration page, again, that will give you all the different information that you could want about the course. And the one thing that we wanted to announce on this call as well is that some of you wrote in and you said, hey, if I was wanting to do a payment plan around this, how would I actually do that? So we've had a payment plan. If you scroll down or if you click register now at the top, it takes you down to a different payment plan and 2 different options. And we have an installment plan that we've put in place that has basically a dual pay option where you can break up the payment because that works better for some folks, which is great. And this will be available until tomorrow night at midnight. So we're here on Wednesday. And so until Thursday Pacific time, we will be offering that dual pay option. And then after that, it will be full pay because we're getting so close to the actual course. So you're welcome to go to the reg pages if you're interested and actually check out the course. And then again, we're happy to hang out here with any other questions that you might have right now.
Here's another question, David. How much time will people need to dedicate each week to keeping up with the materials?
Yeah, well, if I said like 18 hours a week, well, people might be disappointed. No, you don't have to do that. I mean, honestly, it's really 2 hours a week. I wanted to keep this as accessible as possible. And so the different modules will happen on Thursday and then on Tuesdays for an hour. If you can make the live module, awesome. That's great, especially the community engagement sessions. And there's a number of people who said, hey, I'll be watching this on the weekend, or I'll be listening to it. We'll be offering you an audio version as well. So because I hold this as such a foundational course, I think the 2 hours a week will be enough. And then each week you'll be getting a PDF that will have some supplemental resources. So if you're someone who likes to do more reading or you want to be watching more videos, you will have more information with each of the weeks as we go through it. On this course page, again, when you register, we'll send you everything before next Tuesday that basically says, here's how you access the calls, here's the course registration page, and we'll be showing you where you can actually access these PDF handouts so that you can actually see. If you want to do more work, you can, but really 2 hours a week should be plenty.
Great, keep it moving. Well, this is pertinent to both of us. David and I met actually through somatics, but someone asked, will there be somatic practices at all, of course?
Yeah, well, for those who don't know somatics, it's a form of body-based transformative work. And some of my work the last 10 years around trauma has really been working with the body. So I'd say yes and no. It won't be a somatic focused course, though there will be some practices where we're actually really working with sensations in the body. There's going to be a whole module on working with the body when it comes to mindfulness and trauma. And you may have heard this term, but we're working a lot with something known as interoceptive sensations, or how we know what's happening inside of our bodies when we're practicing mindfulness meditation. And so I'll be offering you some guided practices to support you to actually help people work with the body, to work with sensations. So there will be some somatic components of the course, and it's not going to be an explicitly somatic course, but I really like the components of the somatics that we'll actually be bringing in. And yes, I love my somatics people. If you want to come over to this course, that would be great.
And David, what about folks who are, very new or haven't done any work around trauma? Will this be applicable to them? Will they be lost?
Yeah, no. I'm glad that someone asked that. No, my commitment and our commitment inside of the work is that we're making trauma accessible and understandable. And if you're someone who is new to trauma, you haven't thought much about trauma, you haven't done a lot of reading about trauma, I hold this as a course that will be useful for you. You will receive more resources on learning more about trauma, but no, on session 1, which is actually a week, we have the orientation next Tuesday, and then the course starts on Thursday. There will be a pretty deep dive into what we mean by trauma, how we define it, the spectrum of trauma. So no, I'm very committed that we're going to be going one step at a time, and that someone who's new to trauma, it's actually, those are a lot of people who I want to be speaking to, are people who say, I haven't done a lot of thinking about trauma inside of the context that I'm in. So let me really take a dive here into trauma. So no, I think this is a course that I hope will be very useful for that person.
Love it. How about, will the work be covering, relative skills that are relevant for historical trauma?
Yeah, so for those who are new to that term, there is emerging research, and there's been a large conversation happening for a number of years about trauma that is passed down historically. That could be families, communities, whole groups of people who have experienced historical trauma and overwhelming experiences, and for good reasons continue to carry those experiences in their minds and bodies. So I hold historical trauma as a really important part of the conversation around trauma, period. And then I mentioned this about 5 minutes ago. We won't be taking necessarily deep dives into specific aspects of trauma, which I want to be really clear up front. So people say, hey, I'm working specifically with acute trauma from car accidents. Is this going to be applicable for me? Or I just want to do historical trauma. In my experience, at the level that I'm going to be talking through the course, the general applicability seems to really apply to different aspects of trauma. And I'm saying that with deep respect for the different impacts of, say, historical trauma or something known as developmental trauma. Traumas can look differently. And I'll be focusing on, particularly on regulation and dysregulation of the nervous system, and how are practices impacting the people we're teaching. So last thing I'll say is, if someone was to have an experience in a mindfulness practice where they said, hey, I feel like I'm having an experience of historical trauma, my thinking about that is to both dignify it, for us to have an understanding of what historical trauma is, and then to learn how to work with it over time. And we won't be doing necessarily, guided work around historical trauma in particular, but I think this entry-level course really would apply to it. It's a great question. It's awesome.
Love it. Could you speak a little bit to the format of the engagement sessions, like how folks ask questions and that sort of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So these engagement sessions, we were trying, given our numbers, what we're going to do is we're going to be asking you all to submit your questions through a Google form, which we've been creating. So on the Thursday, once we've recorded the module, and you go to the course page, there will be a place where you'll be able to submit questions. And what we'll be doing is basically calling through the questions and finding the ones that we think will really forward the learning of the whole group. So I'll spend, kind of as I did here on the call for the first 10 minutes, I'll spend a little bit of time talking about, hey, here are some of the primary questions that have been showing up inside the community, and I want to spend some time addressing them. And then at some point on the call, we will open it up to the community, where we'll have the chance to be doing some one-to-one engagement with you all, because to me, that's also where this comes alive, is getting to have interactions with all of you, hear where you're feeling like lighting up, or where you're struggling, where you have questions. So we'll also have some time in the community engagement sessions for some one-to-one, which I would really look forward to. And then, I said this earlier, but there'll be some time at the end of the call for those of you interested who want to stay on, meet some people who are doing this work in different parts of the world. We'll be doing breakout sessions where you'll have the chance to actually meet people. And from the few times we've done this inside the trauma-sensitive mindfulness community, people have really loved it. They meet great people. They get to bounce ideas off each other. So that will be a part of the training.
Excellent. Can you speak a little bit to the refund policy that we have?
Yeah, sure. So when we sat down and designed the course, we wanted you all to walk away from the course or leave the course feeling 100% satisfied. Like, we really wanted this to be worth your time, worth your money, and set the bar high for ourselves. We have high expectations of ourselves doing this work. And so what we decided is that we'd have a 100% refund policy for the first 2 weeks of the course. So if at any point that you're in the course and you feel dissatisfied, you don't think it's going and meeting the standard that you want, we are confident in the work that we are saying, just let us know and we'll give you 100% money back guarantee. So that's something that when we thought about it, it was like, that felt right, to really make sure that you're satisfied with the structure and the content and how you're feeling in the work. So that's what we'll be offering. You can just send us an email and just let us know. No questions asked. We won't ask anything.
I might. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
How about some questions around the bonus workshop? Some questions around that and how that it's social context focus and how that sort of fits in to the rest of the rest of the course.
Yeah. So I have the short answer to this is, if there's one thing I've learned this year, these last couple of years presenting on trauma, is that to me, we can't be in a conversation about trauma without talking really about the world and about the state of the world right now. And what's imperative to me is that we are steeped in an understanding of how trauma plays out around social context. And in my experience, the more work that we have done to talk about how we were shaped to think of around a gender, around race, around class, that our identities matter when it comes to mindfulness and trauma, and that we're going to take a dive really into how we can become very skilled inside of being able to teach with a strong knowledge of social context. So that actual kind of bonus module will be a chance for us to look at the more systemic aspects of trauma, to have an understanding of the personal and the social connections that happen around trauma and change, and also for us to be in a conversation with each other around, wait, how is social context playing out in this community? How can we do well by the students or the clients that we're working with? It's a session that I feel really passionate about, and it's one that I hope that you'll come and join.
Nice. David, you're doing great. You're really answering a lot of questions, and these are rapid fire. So I'm going to keep them going.
I'm happy as long as you want to go.
All right. How about the course is coming up on Tuesday, so some folks wondering if there's any prep that needs to be done, if there'll be enough time between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main preparation right now is to have us be able to send you the different links and resources that you'd need to be able to access everything. So you'll receive an email that says, here's the links, here's the course page, things like that. And then we will be offering you some kind of introductory reading next week, but there's nothing that you need to do really except to prepare yourself for the actual 5 to 6 weeks that we'll be together. I mean, to me, this will be a really deep dive into the topic, and the main preparation that I would have you all do would be really to take a little bit of space and say, okay, how do I think about this topic coming in? What do I feel passionate about learning? Why is this important to me? Like, why do I care about this topic? And I think the more that you all come into the course prepared with and connected to who are the people that you'll be serving, why does this matter to you, and what are any of the experiences that you've had at this intersection of meditation and trauma, the more that you've done a little bit of work metabolizing that coming into the course, I think the better. We're not going to drop 300 pages of reading on your desk that you need to read by Tuesday. I say the main thing at this point would be to contact us, get in touch, register, And then we'll be able to send you the course registration page so that you'll be able to really get organized for how the course will flow over the next 5-6 weeks.
That's great. I think, the questions are certainly if anyone else has questions, please either chat them to me or go ahead and jump in. But otherwise, if you want to, David, just kind of, start speaking about the registration page again and just, that information for folks.
Yeah, happy to. Well, first I just want to say thanks for those that are here. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your interest in this course and this work. It's moving to me personally, having worked at this intersection for a bunch of years, and for a while people saying, I don't totally know why did you go together? And I feel like people are really understanding now about the kind of the ethical importance of why it matters for us who are offering mindfulness to be doing so in a way that's sensitive to people who are struggling with trauma. So I just want to say thank you. Thanks for being here, whether you're on the course or not. I'm just inspired to be having this conversation. And then for those of you that right now, if you know, hey, this is the right time, I really want to join the course right now. Maybe you want to take advantage of the 2-pay, the installment pay that we still have until tomorrow night at midnight. Then encourage you, Tyler, I think you just sent out a link. Please go to that link. You'll see it's pretty easy in terms of registration, and would love you to go there. You can look through the course, and if you click on register now, it takes you right down to the place where you can do the installment pay, or you can pay for the full course. And again, as Tyler was saying, we want this to be right for you. That's our commitment. Like, we feel great about this work, and we want you to feel very clear about whether it's the right fit, whether you're going to get exactly what you need. So if you have any more questions about the course, I mean, we're getting pretty close now to the course Tuesday, and we'll cut it off because we'll need to be really focusing on the actual course. But if you have any questions, please reach out. You can reach us. You can either put your email right now into the chat box with a question, or Tyler, if you wouldn't mind putting this in the chat box, you can also reach us at support@davidtrelevin.com, where we have a staff right now whose full-time job really is to be answering questions specifically as we build up to the course. So please don't hesitate to reach out, ask us any questions. We feel pretty available around it, and we would love you to be there. It'd be really exciting. It feels, with almost 400 people there, it feels like this is a moment. This feels like a potential, almost like a historical moment inside the field to be deep in this conversation around trauma. And we want to be in it with you. So please join us. It'd be great to have you on the course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any parting words here? I just want to say I'm one of those people who's there answering questions. So hope to hear from you all. And I'll be going through the course as well. So I'm looking forward to being on with hopefully a lot of you.
Yeah, please. I'll say just before, thanks, Tyler. Thanks for being here. Thanks for navigating. Right now on my phone, I can be with us. So I just want to say, a person just texted me, Felicia just texted and said, will this be recorded? This will be recorded and offered out to the community. So you can watch your inbox for an email if you want to come back to this recording for any way. That will be here. But really just thank you. Thank you for making the time. Thanks for being here, and looking forward to being in touch with all of you in the near future.